warm welcome to the CERTAD Talks, organized by the National Gallery of Modern Art, Bengaluru, in collaboration with the SRISHTI Institute of Art, Design and Technology. I would like to begin by requesting Dr. Geeta Narayanan, founder-director of SRISHTI, to welcome Padma Bhushan Professor Bn Goswami, our speaker for this evening. We would also like to welcome Dr. Satyabhama Badrinath, the director of NGMA Bengaluru, without whose support this collaboration would not have been made possible. Since its inception in 1996, SRISHTI is known for being an arts and cultural institution that has pioneered interdisciplinary thinking and learning in art, design, and technology. Now, I'm delighted and privileged to introduce our speaker for this edition of CERTAD Talks. Professor Bn Goswami is Professor Emeritus of Art History at the Punjab University, Chandigarh. His work covers a wide range and is regarded, especially in the area of Indian painting, as having influenced much thinking. He has been the recipient of many honors, including the Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship, the John D. Rockefeller III Fellowship, the Mellon Senior Fellowship, the Rietberg Award for Outstanding Research in Art History, the Padma Shri in 1998, and the Padma Bhushan in 2008. More recently, he was awarded the Tagore National Fellowship for Cultural Research. Professor Goswami has taught as visiting professor at several universities across the world, among them the universities of Kiel, Pennsylvania, Heidelberg, California, both at Berkeley and Los Angeles, Texas, Zurich, and the Federal University at Zurich. He has also been responsible for major exhibitions of Indian art at Paris, San Francisco, Zurich, San Diego, New York, Frankfurt, New Delhi, and the list goes on. He has published extensively, many of his books having acquired the status of classics in the field of art. The theme for his talk this evening is Making the Invisible Visible, and he plans to lead us not to, but into a select group of works of his choosing to reach out to the thoughts and meanings that lurk within. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Bn Goswami.
So may I thank you very much for being here in such numbers. What am I going to do? There's some arrogance in the title that I have chosen. Making the invisible visible. As if I am a street juggler who might really be playing with things and so on and make things disappear and then reappear or something like that. The whole idea is really to ask ourselves, not you, but myself, to visually enter these objects. I've chosen them with care because each one of them speaks to me in a particular fashion. Each one of them I have had a dialogue with over the years. Each one of them has whispered into my ears over a number of years. So I have a relationship with these objects. And I'm sure that as we go along, you might develop some kind of a relationship with them too. But let me start with a story which might illustrate what my attempt is going to be. It's a Jain story from the 12th century. It takes a bit of telling, but it's a very interesting story. A Shishya goes to a guru. And they keep on talking about this, that, and so on. And one day the guru says to the Shishya, I'm going to tell you a story. He says, I'll tell you the story of a man who left his home and went into the forest, the dense forest, and he thought he'll sort of explore the forest. And as he was moving through the forest, the density of the forest kept increasing. Darkness started to fall, and the man wanted to get back. But it was not easy, because he was losing his way. And he was nervous. As he was in this nervous kind of a state, the story goes on. Suddenly he saw a great big elephant come charging at him. And he said, I must escape. He ran in the opposite direction to escape from the elephant. And as he ran to save his life, suddenly from the opposite direction came a tall, terrible-looking demoness, nearly naked and flashing a sword. And he thought this was not a very happy proposition either, so he started running in a different direction and panting and trying to save his life. He came to a place where there was a huge tree. And he looked up at the tree and said, the elephant he could hear behind him, let me get up to the top of the tree to save myself. But it was not easy. So he looked around, and by the edge of that particular root of the tree, there was a sunken well, a pit. And he said, let me see if I can save myself by hiding myself in the pit. At the edge of the pit, there were some reeds, very strong reeds, which are growing. So he said, let me hold them. And he lowered himself into that particular pit. He looked up and hoping that the elephant will come and pass. And then he suddenly saw two mice, one black mouse and one white mouse, nibbling at the roots of those reeds. And he was sure that his life is safe only till such time as the reeds are cut. And then he started looking down, trying to see whether he'll fall, die immediately or whatever. And then suddenly in the bottom of the pit he saw a whole lot of snakes with their eyes flashing and so on. And there he was trembling for his dear life. And at that spot, right at that particular moment, the elephant arrived. And the elephant sort of looked around, did not find his prey, and with his head he started butting against the head of the trunk of the tree. And the tree started heaving. And there was a beehive up there. And as a result of that, the beehive got dislodged, and thousands of bees sort of, scattered everywhere. And some of them came straight into the pit and stung this man all over his body. And while he was in this situation, because it was a beehive, there was some honey in it, a drop of honey fell on his forehead and trickled down the ridge of his nose and fell into his mouth and tasted so sweet that he forgot all the troubles he was in for that moment. Story ends. The Shishya says to the Guru, it's a very interesting story. But why are you telling me stories? I'm here to learn. And he says, now hear from me the true meaning of this story. The man is a human soul. The house that he lives is the kingdom of God. The forest that he enters is really the sansar in which we lose ourselves. That elephant which comes charging at him is old age. The demoness who's pursuing him and threatening him is death. He wants to escape both old age and death. He reaches that particular tree. He should have climbed up, but it was too much of an effort, so he decided to lower himself into that particular pit. Those reeds by which he is hanging, these are the span of human life. The white mouse and the black mouse are the dark fortnights, and the bright fortnight of a month, which represents time. The snakes down below are passion. The bees that come down upon him are diseases, and that one drop of honey is the momentary sukh that we feel in this world. Sarvam dukkham. So the Jain story says. At one level, it is a perfectly crafted story. At another, we are in a totally different world. Lurking behind the surface, beneath the surface, are truths that we did not suspect were there. That's what happened. When I look at art, when I look at these objects that I'm going to share with you, then I have to, in a certain sense, talk to them, try and see whether I can get any help from any memory of mine, other things that I have seen, any text that I have read, any friend who has explained anything to me. So the making of the invisible visible can happen in a variety of ways through all kinds of helps. So you and I, in a manner of speaking, have to be prepared to receive, to try and understand what it is all about. A couplet by the great Urdu poet Mir Taqi Mir, who says, "Le सांस भी आहिस्ता के नाजुक है बहुत काम, आफाक की इस कारगहे शीशागरी का." Meaning what? Meaning, breathe gently here and soft. For it is a fragile world that you are going to enter. Sensitive, fragile, more or less ephemeral. The powers on high have brought this thing into being. It is a house of glass. So tread gently. So the world of art, I'm sure that most of you know it much better than I, is a world that we have to enter gently, negotiate it slowly, with patience, with a degree of care. Slowly, however, patience pays. Slowly, however, some things are revealed to us. Slowly, however, memories come crowding into our head, and we are able to make some kinds of connections and so on. That is, if there is anugraha, if there is the divine intervention, so to speak. And we are given this aid to try and make sense. The people who made these images, which I'm going to share with you, died hundreds of years ago. So we are left to our own devices to try and make sense of them. What is it that the artist is saying? What is it that we are looking at in casual eyes, and how much can we get out? It depends upon our own utsaha, as the theory of aesthetics says. We really have to bring energies to the act of viewing. I was going to show you a number of paintings, but there's some perverseness in my nature, so I begin with a sculpture. This piece of sculpture is in a Kansas City Art Museum. It's a small piece, probably of the Vijayanagar dynasty, 15th century. There is no caption. Stella Kramrisch published it a long time ago, and she titled it The Tree of Life and Knowledge. Decent. Nobody, the artist was not there. There's no caption that the sculpture carries. But let's look at it with care. What is it that you and I are looking at? If we look at it closely, we see that in the heart of there's a general resemblance to a tree. There's a trunk, there are branches, there are leaves, and there are twigs, and so on and so forth. A generic resemblance. But what do we see in the heart of the crown of the tree? A many-hooded snake and a discus underneath. And when we see a many-hooded snake, immediately thoughts come to our mind. Could it be Shesha? Could it be Vasuki? Some long-forgotten reptile from the world of imagination. Beneath that is a discus. Immediately, if that is Shesha, this must be the discus, the chakra of Vishnu. Could that be right? Who knows? When we come down, then around the trunk of the tree there are two crowned monkeys. And the moment we see crowned monkeys, immediately Ramayana comes to our mind. We think of Hanuman and Angad and so on. And if we look further down, then at the foot of the tree there are two cows, and cows and tree come together to raise a vision of Krishna fluting something. So what is it? I am very intrigued by it. I see it's a very beautiful form, as you can see. There are these regular bending branches, and one branch is connected to the next one, which is smaller, which is next one again is still smaller, and leaves connect them and so on. But my eye falls at the edges of these branches, where on every single branch a hansa, bird, is resting. Now we know hansas make nests in trees, but I mean surely no hans can sit at the edge of this branch. And regularly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why? I ask myself. Did the artist bring these in? Is Stella Kramrisch right? Is a tree of life and knowledge? Is the hansa that wonderful mythical bird in our own imagination, which has viveka, which has the capacity to distinguish between what you and I should take? Of course, the story is, the myth is, if you place a bowl of milk mixed with water, the Hans will only drink milk, leave water behind. Viveka, discrimination. Or is it one can move in a different direction? Could it possibly be that it is the ingoing and the outgoing breath, incoming and outgoing breath? Hansa, like this, the yoga kriya. I don't have the answer. I don't think anybody has the answer. But this is what the essence of it all is. It provokes and challenges. It leads us to asking questions. The form is beautiful in itself. If I did not know that Stella had called it the tree of life and knowledge, I would still be in love with this particular object. But the more I inquire, the more I pay attention to detail, the more intensely and visually I enter the object, the more I get out of it. That is the essence of seeing. This object, again, small brass object, Jain, this is a copy, of course, but originally maybe 14th century or something. What do we see? There is a figure, but there is not a figure. It's there and it is not there. The figure has been cut out. It's a negative that you and I are looking. So is it only decorative? Quite obviously not. The tremendous thinking seems to have gone into the making of this. The Jains call it Akash Murti, figure in space, cut out. The Jain belief is that you can mortify the flesh so much. You can stand and do tapas for years together and so on, till the physicality of your body melts. And it becomes so subtle, so sukshma, that wind can pass. That is a notion. Well, I can have it on my mantelpiece as a decorative sculpture, but till I know the meaning of it all, till I know the significance of this extraordinary, I am getting only a fraction of what resides in it, what is embedded in it. So, the utsaha that we speak of, that our texts are constantly telling us that utsaha is the essence of the situation. The energy you bring to the act of viewing is critical, is absolutely critical. We can see all kinds of objects as we go on. This is a drawing from the Jagdish Mittal collection. Young lady standing, Nayaka, but she doesn't have 2 arms. She has a set of 6 or 8 arms. She's not a goddess. She's not Ashtabhuji Devi. What is the artist doing? I think he's thinking. He's making up his mind. What would look best on her? Should she have raised hands above her head? Should the hands be at the level of the shoulder? Should they be hanging down? It's a cerebral thing that you and I look at. Making up of the mind of the artist his cogitation, his ability to talk to himself. Let me try this. It's not a finished, obviously not a finished picture. It is a work in progress. But you and I really have to see this to realize how much goes on inside the head of. Now you can, it's an interesting thing, it's a diverting thing, it can be amusing, this particular image. 4 deer, 1 head. And it's confusing to begin with. And then you start concentrating on bits of it. And then forget about the rest. If you look at the deer standing at right and apply and paste that head onto the neck and so on, it's nearly perfect. The deer sitting on the floor, crouching, the head also fits that particular body. You can move to the left, and then of course there's the other deer the third deer who's scratching his nose or something like this, and that also fits. The only trouble you and I may initially, and I say this volitionally and emphatically, initially might have is with regard to the deer which seems to be suspended in the air, but all that you and I have to do is to turn the paint or move around the paint to see that that particular head fits in that particular deer also. Is it a game? Is it just a playful thing in a moment of, either absent-mindedness or of total leisure and so on, the artist produce? I don't think so. I think he's asking us to strategize. And I see this as a kind of a didactic exercise as far as I am concerned. And it's a very attractive picture to begin with, puzzling, and children would love it, but I gain from it. This young Nayaka, beautiful, dazzling clothing, eyes which are large, whispering into the ears, as the text says, standing in front of a tree and holding a flower which he has just plucked possibly from that. Who is she? One would naturally wonder, is she a beautiful form, undoubtedly lissom, tall, cypress-like? But I think there's a reference here to an ancient myth. And the myth is that if there is a tree which has completely dried up, and if there's a Nayaka or a young woman who is Padmini with all the attributes, physical and mental, of a most beautiful woman, if she touches that tree, the tree will suddenly spring to life. Possibly. I have no means of proving it, but if I'm wrong, then somebody has to prove it to me that I am wrong. In any case, it enhances very, very considerably my enjoyment of this if I realize that maybe it goes back to the dryad myth of early texts and so like that. Incidentally, many of these pictures may be familiar to some of you. And when I used to go and teach, let's say, the University of Heidelberg, every year I would go, a rumor would go around, beware, you're going to see the same pictures again. Some people have died. So those of you who have seen these pictures, nobody is going to really seriously be injured or something like this. Just be with me. This painting, elegant, simple. As it was published, when it was published for the first time, with the caption, "A lady running indoors." But this doesn't add much to my information. That she's a lady is clear. That she's not going out but rushing toward the door, which is half open. But I have in my head the poetry of Bihari, the great 16th century, early 17th century poet, who wrote the Satasai, 700 verses. And what does one of the dohas of Bihari is perfectly applicable to this. Durva hui nali uthe, dhuva dharani chahu kod, jarat avat jagat ko, pavas prathama payo. She's a virhani. She's separated in love. And when the clouds gather in the sky, the season of longing stirring through human frames, especially those separated from their lovers. And the Nayaka, she looks at that particular cloud, addresses her Sakhi and says, Dhurva hohi na aliutre. That is not the Dhurva, the cloud of the monsoon in the sky. Dhuma dharani chahu kod. It is the cloud of smoke which is rising from the fire of separation. And I cannot bear it, I must escape from it. Beautiful verse, elegantly interpreted. But notice a detail. Notice the detail of her holding on to the edges of the dupatta over her head. Is filled with wind now at this particular moment and is fluttering. She is making an effort to hold it tight so it doesn't slip off her head. The question you and I can ask. Now the painter is inviting us to. Is it the fluttering of the wind caught in her dupatta, or is it the fluttering of the heart? This painting was published again, and the writer correctly identified Krishna, and who else could it be than Radha? And he says, Radha extinguishing a lamp. As a prelude to a preparation for lovemaking. There is no lamp there. Again the Doha of Bihari. Ahe dahedi jini dhare, jini tu lehi utar, aise hi nike chue, aise hi rehna. Krishna says, Radha comes running from outside. She is reaching out for a pot of curds, which is hanging from that contraption in the ceiling. And Krishna sees her and says, whether you are going to remove it or not and so on, do not stir, do not move an inch, because I like the angle from which I am seeing your body, and stay transfixed. Lover's request easily granted, but that's what it is. So suddenly, help comes to us from literature we might have read. Help comes to us from all kinds of, the foreign scholar who reached out for that, and so he thought, there's a lamp hanging. There's no lamp hanging. It is a pot of curds which is over there. A Nayaka, woman in love, young woman in love. And she is what? A Kalhantarita. There are 8 types of major Nayakas. Kalhantarita is the one who has quarreled with her lover, and then suddenly she realizes maybe she had overshot the mark, and maybe have been too harsh or too suspicious. The famous singing, Kahan Gujari Raat Kanhaiya. So he comes in the morning, she has been waiting for in the night, and when he appears, she sees signs of some other woman sort of lips on her forehead or something like this. And she says, she does not spare any words at all. Accuses her, and he says, I'm innocent. And then he gets angry, starts moving away. And now look at this tiny little detail. She, after having chided, reprimanded, spared no word, is now suddenly realizing maybe I should not have done that. And her head is bent, and she stretches a very, very tentative looking finger, making up her mind, should she call him back or should she? And he, as you know, as you can see, he is going away but not quite going away. I'm pretty sure that he thinks she will call him back. So at that particular point, the painter with great imagination leaves the background almost completely bare except for the one pillar of discord which he prominently places in the heart of the picture. This is the way it goes on. But sometimes the artist is inviting us to think differently. Not only to make connection between painting and poetry, but think differently. Again, a Doha of Bihari. You can see, and anybody in this audience would be able to sort of identify who is the figure playing upon the flute. Krishna, blue-bodied, and the Pitambara. But Doha says, Adhar dharat hari ke parat ot deet pat jot harit baans ki bansuri indra dhanush si ho. Meaning what? The moment he puts the flute to his lips, then all colors start gathering around. The black of his eyes, the red of his lips, the yellow of his garment, and this tiny little piece of green bamboo is creating as if there were a rainbow color. Beautiful verse and elegantly painted, most elegantly painted. But you and I have to look at it from a little closer. Now let's start absorbing the range of colors which the painter has brought in. Yellow, green, yellowish green, greenish yellow, orange, in the background, clouds, and through the clouds, the golden lightning darting. The forms, the colors, the situation, and these two gopis who are standing at the extreme right are looking at him with wondrous eyes. What kind of sound is emerging from this tiny little piece of bamboo? So they are wondering. And you can see them from a little closer. You can see the tree behind them. You can see the lake behind them also, and so on. And then, but however, on the other part, the left half of the same painting, there is another group of women, all in love with Krishna, 5 of them here. Not one of them is looking in his direction. One of the senior most among them says, look there, not in that direction, look there. And what is there? This rainbow. But rainbow descended to the earth, to the ground. A rainbow which is not spread out like this, but in a certain sense contracted. I think, once again, I could be wrong, but I think everybody knows what a rainbow is like. The rainbow doesn't appear on earth, but it is up there in the sky. And it is not this particular shape, but it has some kind of a resemblance to a rainbow, which poetry talks. But here it looks like the mouth of a cave. In Nathadwara, which is not very far from Udaipur, the great temple of Srinathji, there they speak of an experience called Giri Kandara. Giri means a mountain, Kandara means a cave. A cave in a mountain. And the idea is that if you enter that, it's all dark inside. You don't know what you are going to see. Will you have the darshan of Krishna? Will there be animals inside you have to escape from? You don't know. There's nothing known about what is inside. It's a cave of experience. And that, departing from all the description of the colors, this and that, and so on, the painter, I think, painted the cave of experience. So we moved from one level, that of pure visual delight of colors and composition, to a very, very materially different level, that of experiencing or being led to the threshold of experience. Like there is tremendous amount of cerebration in these works. Krishna has gone to Mathura, subdued Kansa, historic vision that he had in life, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So the evil has been destroyed. But then he moves on and he goes away and populates Dwaraka. But he also remembers that his friends, her beloveds, the gopis of Vrindavana, that they are waiting for him. So he sends a friend, Uddhav. Uddhav goes, he says, tell them that I am not going to come. So Uddhav has a very difficult task, telling these young women that he is not going to return. And he comes and talks to them about this and that and so on. You know, you should meditate, you should do. And the girls say to him, Uddhav, kya baat kar rahe ho, pagal ho? Uddhav, man nahi 10-20. We don't have 10 hearts or 20 hearts. We have one heart. And that heart is concentrated upon him. He says to them again and again, no, this is not right, he's a different entity, this and that, and so on. So this is the task that Uddhav is performing in this particular painting. This is Uddhav, whom we see twice. The gopis are moving in this direction, that direction, and so on. If you notice at the extreme right, by the bank of the river Yamuna, there is a tree. At the foot of the tree, there are footprints. And the gopis say to him, look, he cannot do this to us. He left his footprints, which we have saved. Uddhav, koyal kujat kanan, tum humko upadesh karo ho. Bhasma lagao anand. The koils are cooing in the gardens. The season of longing is there, and you stand there and talk to us about the philosophies of this and that and so on. Bhasma lagao anand, put ashes on your body and just meditate or something like this. This does not work. And one of them says, look at these footprints, and one of them says, no, come, I'll show you some. So she beckons Uddhav. Come and see for yourself. And she shows him that. You know, the soaring imagination of the painter. In the sky, or towards the sky, there is this extraordinary formation. Could be a rock, could be a mushroom, could be a cloud on which a lone cow stands. Neck craned, looking in the direction far away. And this gopi says, you can talk about your fine philosophy to us, but talk about that philosophy to that cow. Deeply moving. You get into it, and you see Uddhav's, the Brahmar Gita and so on and so forth, and you realize how extraordinary is the imagination of the painter. Who has brought in this cow? It's not there in this text. It's all a part of his own creative imagination. But that little cow, you can say it's badly drawn. Who cares? If I were to show this to a foreign audience, and I say, what do you think is the moment? Lovers on a bed. But the question is this moment before lovemaking or after love? And the answer is obvious. You and I with sharp eyes can see that the garland around the neck of Krishna is broken. That on the bed Next to his feet there are little emeralds and other beads and so on. Obviously, the necklace around the neck of Radha is also. So, it's obvious. After love making. Tiny little hints thrown in your direction and mine. Radha has spent the night with Krishna. Surreptitiously, they met. And the night has gone on like this. And suddenly, the morning dawned. The lotuses begin to bloom in the back. And in the hurry, kind of confusion, Radha gets up and says, I must leave because nobody is in the village is up yet, so I'll quietly slip out. But Krishna, sharp-eyed, discerns that in her confusion, the haste of the moment, she has, instead of her own dupatta, she has taken his yellow dupatta and wrapped it around her body and is about to go out with it. Vibramhava is how the text calls it. And he says, don't go out with my dupatta on your shoulders. And once you step out of this particular door, the game is over. Everyone knows where you were last night. And you can see the quality of painting this detail, which is not more than 3/4 of an inch of this particular night. On a cool marble terrace she lies, looking at the moon. She obviously is a virahani. Obviously she is thinking of her lover. याद आवे जब पियो की विरह उठे तन जाग जूं चूने की कांकरी जब छिड़को तब आग. Meaning what? When I think of him in my viraha, in my state of separation. याद आवे जब पियो की विरह उठे तन जाग. Then the feeling of viraha overtakes me. जूं चूने की कांकरी. It's as if my heart is like a lump of lime, and the memory serves as one drop of water. You throw on it, it sizzles. These painters whose work we are looking at were not painters alone. I mean, like great painters, good painters, they were thinkers. This is one of the most widely published, and when we were having tea, somebody reminded me of this particular painting, which I must have shown 200 times or seen 400 times. But just look at the intelligence with which the painter does. Geet Govind of Jayadev, 12th century verse interpreted by a painter in the 18th century. It's not a narrative, the only beginning there is a narrative, and the narrative is that Nanda, Krishna's foster father, has gone out into the fields with the cows, like the cowherd that he is, along with a number of his friends, and there they are, and suddenly a storm begins to brew in the sky, and there's going to be thunder and lightning and so on. So he calls Radha and says, this boy is going to get afraid. Radha is a little older than Krishna. Take him home. And so they went their way backwards to the village. And the poet says, on the way homeward, their love began to unfold. It's a developing situation. For the first time, so to speak, they are together, alone. And now look at the way the painter handles. Extraordinary coloring, the brooding mystery of the Indian forest, the quiet flow of the Yamuna in the background. The night is falling. There are some little stars which have begun to appear. While everything is in dark, only the two figures are perfectly lit. perfect, like this. Where is the light coming from? Obviously, inward. But her legs are crossed, and you can almost sense that she might break into dance any moment. Their eyes are locked. Time has come to a stop. The rest of the world ceases to exist, that magical moment. He has put his arm around her shoulder, is about to fondle her breast, and she's trying to remove that particular hand with no conviction in it. While this is happening, look at the way the painter handles these silent sentinels in the background. Look at the trees. I read them. If you look at the extreme left, there is a tree with a split trunk, distant. Move forward, there is another tree where the distance has been reduced. And when you come close to Radha and Krishna, it's a different exposure. Two trees, one slightly darker in skin, bark, the other lighter. He is Ghanashyam, she is Damini, and they are embracing. Much like the lovers. Could thought have gone into this? I don't think it's an accident that the trees are rendered in this particular fashion. So what am I saying? Basically, what I'm stating is only this much. It pays, it is profitable, it is meaningful to enter works of art. Make that grand visual entry which these works demand. I take you to the Mughal world, and we see different things. But again, the thinking process, the cerebration is on. One of the greatest periods of Mughal painting was that of Jahangir. And the Emperor Jahangir, in a grandiose kind of a manner, seated on this hourglass-like throne, the European putti up in the sky, running away, sand is running out, putti are down at the bottom, and so on. And while the emperor sits on that throne, behind him the sun and the moon have come together. And in front of him there are four figures. Who are the four figures? The King of England, James I, who never set foot on the soil of India. But the painter has seen a painting, brings him in. Above him, the Sultan of Turkey, who never entered India. But an image which had come into the possession of the painter, he brings in. At the bottom, there is the painter Bichitra, holding a painting to identify himself as a painter. But what is the emperor doing? He is ignoring them, neglecting them, and handing a book, a beautifully bound book, to this Sufi saint as a mark of imperial favor. And the poet has put in a quatrain, 2 lines at top and 2 at the bottom. Padshah Surato Mani az Lutfi-Allah, Shah Nuruddin Jahangir Ibn Akbar Padshah, Garche dar Surat Shahan, Darand dar Peshi Qayam, Leek dar Manim, Badarvesha Kunad Dayam. Meaning what? This man, referring to Jahangir, is a true king, not only outwardly but inward, not only in his surat but in the mani, in the meaning that hides within himself. Garche dar surat shaha. In appearance, it is keeping the company of the potentates of the world, but inside of himself, dharmani, but darvesha kunad dayam. His eye falls upon the mystic the holy, the saintly figure. He is like that. Encomium, zoology, totally, whatever. But that is the significance of these allegorical pictures of that particular thing. In Jahangir's reign, Nadir-uz-Zama paints this. The emperor embracing Shah Abbas of Persia. Shah Abbas had never been to India. An embassy had been sent by Jahangir to Iran, and the painter there by the name of Bishan Das had brought images of the two, and now the two emperors of the Islamic world stand embracing each other. Naturally, Jahangir shown as the elder one, embracing his younger brother as it were, and so on. Who knows how tall Jahangir was? Who knows how tall Shah Abbas was? But that's what, once again, the solar symbol in the background, but notice the fact that they are standing on two animals. The calf, lamb, and a lion, showing a symbol of peace, coexistence. But interestingly enough, the painter shows Jahangir, his own patron, standing on the lion. And the lamb is left to Shah Abbas to stand upon. And their inscription of text at the top. And now look at this. Extraordinary work. Meaningful. Not that you and I are left to imagine things, but the painter has thought about these things. And long inscriptions that this was done and so on and so forth. And you might be interested in the map of the world, of the globe at that particular time, which must have been inspired by some European print, which the Mughal painters saw. Jahangir again, standing on a globe, inside which there are animals, and the globe is resting on the figure of Manu, who is resting upon a great big fish, references to mythology, in Hindu mythology, and he's shooting an arrow at a dark figure, and the arrow hits the figure in the forehead. And who is the dark figure? Shakhs-e-Iflas, personification of poverty. The painter says that this great emperor is banishing poverty from this. Allegories, parables, suggestions, all within an imperial ambiance. Jahangir giving Jharoka Darshan. Up there he sits. If you notice, top, above that great big red sandstone pillar. And below him, and this is the sequence in which people used to stand. Some were allowed to within 10 feet of the emperor, others were allowed 15 feet of the emperor, still others still lower and so on. And down below are the hoi polloi and so on, who are waiting to catch the favorable glance of the emperor himself. So unless you and I make the effort to understand the situation in which these paintings were made, the intention behind it is not a sequence of a particular day or a particular time. It is to be fixed on the minds of the viewer for eternity as it. And Jahangir, and the poet says at the top and at the bottom and so on, if two great emperors were to sup at the same table, the cares of the world will disappear. And there are these all victuals, placed on the ground and so on, and the two sit facing each other. The Emperor Jahangir to the left, Shah Abbas right. But notice how Shah Abbas's hands are held like this, clasped, like a junior, like a subservient person would hold hand in the presence of a senior, especially an emperor. Shushahe Jahangir Abbas Shah Do Shahe Jawan Bakht Zille Allah. Shah Jahangir and Abbas Badshah, two who are the reflections of God upon this particular earth. Bashadi Garifta Bakaf Jame Jam Badaulat Nashinad Pahalu. If happily they sit on the same table or eat, then Badaulat Nashinad, then prosperity will be evident. These paintings, well known as they are, and I'm sure many of you have seen, are speaking of a time and a space and a setting in which they made sense not only to the patron, but to all who saw these particular. Jahangir had rebelled against his father, the Emperor Akbar. Last 5 years were troubled between father and son. Jahangir had set up a different court at Allahabad. But after his death, after Akbar's death, when Jahangir assumes the throne of India, then there is some kind of a sense of guilt in him. And the painter brings the emperor in all his pomp and glory and circumstance, holding a portrait of his father. And the father looks much more simply clad, like this. He always used to wear white clothes, showing no sign of great luxury, unlike Jahangir. But the painter knows that, and this is how the great Akbar he rendered. This one of the most moving drawings from the whole range of Mughal painting, from the sketchbook of an artist. The cares of the world bearing down upon his shoulders, eyes turned gently downward. Refinement, patience, thinking inwardly all the time is what the painter is able to infuse into this tiny little drawing. Or a Sufi saint, like this. See this portrait from close. He's standing with a kind of a stick in his hand, but notice the expression in the eyes, the inclination of the head downward, the character, the depth of character in this Sufi. So it's not a question of whether we are looking at Rajasthani painting or Dakkani painting or Pahari painting or Mughal. This cerebral process, this ability to invoke a period and situation persists. When I saw this painting for the first time, I could not make head or tail of it. What is it that is going on? It's a majlis, as you can see. Singing is going on. There are musicians at the right. There are two old men. One of them is inscribed with the name of Sheikh Sadi. And some moment in the singing has come when the man in the middle cannot contain himself, throws up his hands in the air as if he's become possessed. As if a kind of the situation, the halat of vajad has come. And then luckily, I turned the painting on its back and saw a katha of Sheikh Sadi written on. Wonderful utterance. Gili khushbu dar hammam rozi, rasid az daste mahboobi badastam. Badu gufta ke mushki ya abiri, ke manaz bue dilaviz mastam. Bagufta man gili na cheez budam, valekin muddate bagul nishastam, kamale ham nashi bar man asar kard, vagarna man hamu, khakim ke hast. Meaning what? One day, the poet says, as I was entering the public bath, there were no private baths at that time, bathrooms and so on, public bath, hammam. Then my beloved handed me a cake of clay. There were no soaps. Fine clay was used to cleanse your body. And handed me the cake of clay, and I put it to my nose, and it smelled so extraordinary, so wonderful, that I spoke to the cake. And I said, what are you? Are you amber? Are you musk? That I am besotted by your fragrance. And out of the kindness of its heart, the cake of clay spoke back to me and said, I am just a humble piece of clay. But I remember that I come from the same soil in which some roses used to grow. It is the company that I kept which has made me what I am. Otherwise, what am I? A fistful of dust, a lump of clay. Wonderful utterance. I mean, you can say this in one sentence. Good company is a good thing or something like that. Right? But look at the extraordinary, the rhythm of it, and the environment, the setting that the poet is able. So what am I essentially saying? That there is much more in these works, that there is something hidden, something invisible, which becomes visible. Not that I can make it visible for you, but you can make it visible for yourself if you were to make the effort. That veil, that thin veil behind which an idea shines, has to be lifted gently. Sheikh Sadi is preaching in a mosque, and he utters an ayat from the Quran. And as soon as he utters that ayat, the ayat says, he says to the audience, the Quran Sharif says, I am, God says to man, I am closer to you than the vein on your neck. Do not forget that. And this man, one of them, loses his awareness and dances with exultation. What an utterance in the Holy. The essence of it all is this. Jahangir had heard about a great Hindu saint by the name of Jadrup, lived near Gwalior. And he said, I had heard that he is a knower. He knows everything. And he was troubled by some questions. I should go to see him. And I've heard that he lives in a little hole in a rock and wears virtually nothing. Jadrup. So he walked on foot for 3 kos, which is about 4.54 miles. And he left his entourage, his cavalcade behind, walked up to the Jadrup and converses. In the Persian tradition, there are 2 words which are always juxtaposed, Shah and Gada. Shah is the one who has everything, who has the power, the means, in possession of everything that he needs. And the Gada is a dervish, is a beggar. So the 2 come together, but the painter is asking you and me a question. Tell me, who's the Shah here and who is the Gada? The emperor has gone begging for enlightenment. So the naked man, Jadrup, with his house, which is a hole in the rock in the background, is expounding things. So he is the Shah at this point. And Jahangir is the Gada. The roles have become completely reversed. The same situation. In a rocky landscape, a dervish, a man who's retired from the world, is seated in front of a cave, and a prince sits facing. receiving enlightenment, seeking answers. Like, it's a little like this. This is a piece of calligraphy, contemporary calligraphy from a Syrian artist. Those of you who have any brush with the Persian or the Arabic script will see that there are some letters you can identify. There is a jim, there is a dal, there is a lam or something like this. But the moment you pursue it, it disappears. It's like mercury in the palm of your hand, constant. You see that there is something there, but you can't grasp, can't really come to grips with it, and you're tantalizingly present, but difficult to enter. Work by Manuku, the painter on whom I've been working for the last 5 years. What do we see here? Hiranyagarbha, the golden egg or the golden womb. Like all cultures, we in our culture ask this question: how did it all begin? What are the origins of it? How did creation come into being? And wonderful, maddeningly beautiful verses there are in our text. There's a Rigved, in the Rigved itself, there's a Hiranyagarbha Sukta. It's the breath of the gods which descended to the earth. It was larger than the largest, greater than the greatest, subtler than the subtlest, and so on. And it came there and lay on the waters of eternity for untold time. Why is it golden? Because inside of it possibly lurks the sun. Manuku, the painter, brings this painting into our ken. There's water, there's no edge, there's not a slip of earth, top, bottom, right, left. It's all water. One day a crack appeared and creation slipped out. But that's not the point that he is making. What does the Hiranyagarbha look like? And why is he or it on these waters? When waters of the ocean you can treat in 10 different ways. You can have waves, you can have all kinds of treatments of water. But he brings in this water in the pattern of walls like this, concentric circles, rough circles and so on. Why? What is the idea? Is it decorative? I don't think so. Somewhere at the back of his mind, I think, the image of telling the age of a tree. If you cut the trunk, you see the rings of time. So it is probably almost certain timelessness or rings of time on waters of. I have taken a lot of your time. I have one last painting. When I look at this painting of a dervish, maybe a beggar, maybe a Sufi, standing like in the gloomy background, greenish black, there is this man, light gone from his eyes, bent back, wobbly legs, can't stand by himself, has to support himself with this asa. But each time I see this painting, a great poem by Ali Sardar Jafri comes to mind. The poem is called Mera Safar, My Journey. फिर एक दिन ऐसा आएगा, फिर एक दिन ऐसा आएगा, आँखों के दिए बुझ जाएंगे, हाथों के कमल कुमलाएंगे, पर बरगे ज़ुबान से नुत्क़ो सदा की हर तितली उड़ जाएगी. Image of death. A day will come The day will come when the lamps of my eyes will begin to grow dim, when the lotuses of my hand will wilt away, and when the tongue that I have, which butterflies of speech and articulation sit, will fly away one by one. एक काले समंदर की तह में फूलों की तरह से हंसती हुई, कलियों की तरह से खिलती हुई सारी शक्लें खो जाएंगी। ये मेरी धरती, मेरी ज़मीन हंसती हुई ये हीरे की कनी, इसकी सुबहें, इसकी शामें एक मुश्ते गुबारे इंसान पर शबनम की तरह रो जाएंगी। दिल की धड़कन, खून की गर्दिश, सब रागनियाँ सो जाएं। All the musical modes that I am able to hear while I am alive. And what are the musical modes? The beating of my heart, the coursing of blood in my vein. They will all fall silent. फिर कोई नहीं ये पूछेगा, सरदार कहाँ है महफिल में? Nobody is going to turn around and ask, where did this man go, Sardar? And then the second part of the poem, where he talks about coming back. लेकिन मैं यहाँ फिर आऊँगा, rebirth. लेकिन मैं यहाँ फिर आऊँगा, बच्चों के दहन से बोलूँगा, चिड़ियों की जुबान में गाऊँगा, पर जब बीज उगेंगे धरती से और कोंपलें अपनी उंगली से मट्टी की तहों को छेड़ेंगी, मैं पत्ती पत्ती, कली कली, फिर अपनी आँखें खोलूँ. I'll be back here again, and I'll speak through the twittering of the birds, or through the lisping words of the newborn, and so on and so forth. And when the shoots from underneath the ground will begin to appear, and then dewdrops will fall upon them, I'll take them in my hand and weigh them, these dewdrops. मैं पत्ती पत्ती, कली कली, फिर अपनी आँखें खोलूँगा, सरसब्ज हथेली पर लेकर शबनम के कतरे तोलूँगा. मैं रंगे हिना, आहंगे गज़ल, अंदाज़े सखुन बन जाऊँगा और रुखसारे उरूसे नौ की तरह हर आंचल से छन जाऊँगा. I'll turn into the veil of the newlywed bride. I'll turn into the flush of cheek on the beloved as she sees her lover, and so on. I'll become the note in the music that being played anywhere, and so on. पर जाड़ों की हवाएं दामन में जब फसले खिज़ां को लाएंगी, जाड़ों की हवाएं दामन में जब फसले खिज़ां को लाएंगी, रहरों के जवां कदमों के तले सूखे हुए पत्तों से मेरे चलने की सदाएं आएंगी. When autumn comes, leaves fall on the ground, and then if you hear the crunching sound under the feet of some young man, that young man will be me. मैं आकाश की नीली सब झीलें, आकाश की नीली सब झीलें, धरती की सुनहरी सब नदियाँ हस्ती से मेरी भर जाएंगी. तब सारा ज़माना देखेगा, हर आशिक है सरदार जहाँ, हर माशूका सुल्ताना है. ये किस्सा मेरा अफसाना. When the blue lakes in the sky and the golden rivers that flow in our land, they'll be filled with my presence. And then all stories will be told, will be my stories. All lovers will bear my name, Sardar. All beloveds will bear the name of my wife, Sultan. And then he ends up, very beautiful. What am I? मैं एक गुरेजा लम्हा हूँ, अयाम के अफसूं खान. I am but a fugitive moment in this wonder house. मैं एक गुरेजा लम्हा हूँ अयाम के अफसूं खाने में. मैं एक लरसता कतरा हूँ, मसरूफ़ सफ़र जो रहता है माजी की सुराही के दिल से मुस्तक़बिल के पैमान. I am like a drop which is trembling at the lip of the carafe of the past, about to be poured into the goblet of the future. I tremble there. मैं एक लरसता कतरा हूँ, मसरूफ़ सफ़र जो रहता है माजी की सुराही, constantly traveling, माजी की सुराही के दिल से मुस्तकबल के पैमाने में मैं सोता हूँ और जागता हूँ और जाग के फिर सो जाता हूँ। सदियों का पुराना खेल हूँ, मैं मर के अमर हो जाता। This painter who has painted this particular painting, it has eliminated everything. There's nothing in the background. We only see his frail figure. But you also see this. Close to his is one single plant, blooming flower. Why did the artist put it in? Is it a promise of return? Is it a symbol of coming back, like Sardar Jafri said? 450 years separate this poem which I've just recited for you, and this painting was made in Jahangir. But I cannot look at this painting without thinking this extraordinary. Visible, invisible, you are the ones to decide. Thank you very much indeed.